Hello and welcome guys to another video. Today we have got episode 2 of the Project Cars to ACC series. So this series is talking about some tips and tricks to get used to the game and then get quicker on it. So today we're going to be talking about driving style and also using assists, and also where to find driving lines, turning points, braking points and things like that. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is ABS and traction control. The cars in this game pretty much all use traction control and ABS. Even the pro drivers will use these, but just at a slightly lower setting. One of the first things would be to make sure that you're using the car's in-car assists for traction control and ABS and not the in-game assists, because the in-game assists can really slow you down. So to disable the in-game assists, simply go across to options, press on assists, and then we have the stability control you can see here. Want to put that to off. If you're on controller, maybe that'll help you if you have that on, but for real users anyway, make sure you've got that turned off. So to adjust the in-car assists, you can go to your car setup, press current setup, then press RB once to go to electronics, and then you will be left with this menu here that has our traction control and our ABS on it. So the first thing we can see here is traction control. So what does traction control actually do? What it basically does is it limits how much power goes to your back wheels based on how much grip you have. So if you put a lot of power to your back wheels, but your tires don't have enough grip for that much throttle input, the traction control will decrease the amount of throttle input. So it will obviously slow you down if you've got it on a really high setting, but it will give you a lot better car control because it's helping you to make sure you've got grip before you accelerate. To figure out what we want our traction control set to, there's a helpful guide in the setup menu. Here we have our conditions, so we have rubbered, green or dry, and then we have full wet. We also have it based on your tyre wear, so when your tyres are brand new, you just got a new set on, and then when your tyres are coming to the end of their life and you're about to pit basically. So for traction control, it varies based on your car, but as you can see, when it's dry, you want to have it on a low number, and then if it's wet or your tyres are getting worn out, then you want to increase your traction control. The next thing is ABS. So the setting is very similar to traction control. If it's dry and you've got a lot of grip, then you can have it lower, and then if your tyres are wearing out or it's wet, you want to put it higher up. ABS simply works as it's trying to prevent your car locking up. So if you have traction control off, if you brake really hard and you don't modulate your brake or anything like that, then your tyres will just lock up and it will also increase your wear. Whereas if you have ABS on, it will try and stop the tyres locking up, so it's a lot harder to lock up. And like I say, when it's raining, you want to turn it up because there's a higher chance of your tyres locking up. ABS and traction control are really helpful for endurance races, which is what ACC is mainly about, because it prevents too much tyre wear. For example, if you don't have traction control or ABS on and you're really wearing out your tyres really quickly, they won't last as long. So that's why most of the pro drivers will use traction control and ABS. The next thing we're going to talk about is our driving line. So here we're at Imola in the Lexus. I thought this is a good track to show how helpful a good driving line can be. So there's a few tips that you really want to watch out for in ACC. One of the first things would be slow in and fast out. So the slower you come into the corner, usually the faster you can accelerate out it. So you don't want to be pushing too late in the braking zones to then have a really bad exit. It's sometimes better to brake that little bit earlier to get a really good exit onto the straight after the corner. Another tip would be trying to minimize your steering. So what that means is you want to try and straighten up as quickly as possible. So for example, hairpins, getting a later apex usually means that you can straighten up quite quickly and then have a good exit on. So right now I'm going to do a little bit of Imola in the Lexus and show you what I'm thinking about when it comes to driving lines and looking for apexes. Another thing to remember is one of the best ways to find your apexes and driving line and things like that is to either watch a track guide on YouTube, or you can go to options, press on assists, and then you can press ideal line and put that to visible. Then that will allow you to see the in-game's line, so you know where to turn in, where to brake and things like that. So now we're going to have a look at driving line. Here we're at Imola in the Lexus, and I thought that a few of these corners are a really good example of how much driving line can really help. So first we're going to look at turn 1 and 2 and 3. So one of the things you want to think about with driving line is thinking about a section of corners, not just one corner. So see here, for the first corner, we're turning in early using the curb, which then allows us to have a shallower line around the right-hander, but then that also opens up the left-hander so you can have a really good exit onto the straight afterwards. So to find driving lines, there's a few methods you can use. You can use just practice, go and hot lap, try a few different lines, different braking points, find out where the track limits are, or you could watch a track guide, or you could turn on the driving line in the game. I personally watch track guides and just do a lot of practice. The other thing you want to think about is how much curb you can use. Every car can use a different amount of curb, also it varies based on what setup you're using. I am going to talk a lot more about curbs in a future episode, but you just want to try and use as much track as you can. Now we're going to look at the next section of corners. I'm just going to have a look at basically this first sector because it's really good for driving line. So here we can see coming into this left-hander, we know how much curb we're using, but what we're doing here again is by taking a lot of curb on the left-hander, the first part, that allows us to open up the right-hander and then straighten up as quickly as possible. Like I said earlier in the video, you want to try and minimize your steering time. So like that, trying to get a good exit and allowing your car to straighten up as quickly as possible can really help you find lap times. And you can also do this by the slow in, fast out method, because slowing in for the first part of the corner allows you to accelerate quicker, straighten up quicker, and can help improve your lap. So we have a look at our cockpit cam coming into the hairpin. We can see how we want to straighten up our wheel quicker, which allows us to get a better exit. So you can see here we're trail braking a bit, and then we've got a lot of steering lock to get round the corner, but then because we've had this late apex, that then allows us to straighten up our wheel quite quickly, which then gives us a really good exit out of the corner. So in conclusion of the driving line, what you're basically trying to think about is the fastest line through the corner, trying to make sure that you maximise your braking zone without going too deep, that you then affect your exit. Like I said, go have a look at some track guides for whatever track you're driving, and that will really help. I'll link a few channels in the description below that do some great track guides for ACC. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the series. My plan for the series is to start with some beginner tips like this, and then move on to actually getting faster on the game and some more advanced tips like brake bias and things like that. A question for you viewers: Would you like me to do an episode where I try ACC on a controller and then try and give some tips for controller users as well? Let me know in the comments down below, and also let me know what you would like me to cover in some of the future episodes. Thanks again for watching. I hope to see you soon. Please leave a like and subscribe.